amazing place, and people compete with other branches. I started spending time in these leagues. I'm a huge sports fan, by the way, and I like to go to games. One of the things that we missed during the pandemic is we were all kind of at home on our screens, and we didn't have those, big public experience, shared experiences. So, sociologists have a great concept for this. It's called collective effervescence. You know this idea? It comes from religious life, actually. The idea that there's something very special that happens when people come together on a Saturday morning at 10 a.m., right? Especially it's going to happen this morning. We take pleasure in each other's company, and if the speech is good enough, if the sermon is good enough, if the game is good enough, right? If the music is good enough, we feel this kind of transcendence, right? It lifts us up. It's a feeling we never get when we're swiping on our phone at home, right? When we're sitting by ourselves. It's this effervescence, this bubbling up of joy and excitement and social life. It's something we only achieve together, and it's one of the great pleasures in life. It's one of the great pleasures in life, and it's one of the things we really missed when we were locked down in that pandemic period. And I will tell you, as someone who goes to a lot of great collective events where I'm searching out collective effervescence, there's almost nothing I've done that was more uplifting than being in the rec room with seniors in Brooklyn who are competing against other libraries in library lanes. And you think I'm kidding, but they're tough, These bowlers are tough. And what happened, get back to my story with The Economist, is librarians started telling all these stories on Twitter. And can I tell you something amazing? You know what happened the next day? Forbes took the article down off the internet. Yeah, you can clap for the, yeah. I like to think of that as the best thing that's ever happened on Twitter, right? And they didn't take it out because they were being censored. They didn't take it out because the article was being banned. They took it off because it was so embarrassing to have it up there, because it was so plainly wrong, right? Because what the librarians had done is explain all the reasons why a community that cares about itself would invest in itself with a library. If you could do the right cost-benefit analysis, you would show it. You could see it. You could calculate it, right? Palaces for the people. I've driven around this part of Maryland before, and you know what? I'll tell you, there's a lot of palaces around here. There's some very nice residential communities not too far from here, and man, have people built some palaces for themselves, right? There's a lot of money in this country. People have made a lot of money in the last several years, and they've made it to build beautiful palaces for themselves. What kind of community builds a palace for its own people? What kind of political agency says our priority should be ordinary people? The kinds of people who would go to a park or a playground or an athletic field or a library. That's why I go to the library when I get to a town for the first time. And this concept, palaces for the people, it comes from a guy named Andrew Carnegie. Mixed record as a human being, Carnegie. Made a ton of money. Was not super interested in the income tax. Didn't like it very much at all. Did help to support libraries going up across the country and around the world. And Carnegie loved libraries because he was an immigrant. And for him, as a child, the library was a place that took him places where he wouldn't otherwise get to go. He saw the library as an engine of economic mobility, as well as spiritual uplift. And this phrase, palaces for the people, is so provocative and revealing to me because it says the library is going to be a very different place than the places we are in our day-to-day life. And I'll tell you, there's a design, we're going to get in a conversation with a great architect soon, but there's a design for what we call now Carnegie libraries, the libraries that Carnegie helped to build. And there's a lot of impressive and important features about them I want you to understand. And one of them is often when you go to a Carnegie library, you're on the ground level, you're in the mundane world of the everyday, right? This is just where we live our lives. You have very good coffee and immunity drinks here, so you live a very good life. But when you go into a library, to Carnegie Library, the first thing you have to do is you have to go up. And what that going up does is it exalts you, right? It just takes you out of the realm of your daily life and into a special place. And you often find that when you are in a library, you see things like high ceilings. Maybe you've got a lot of light, big windows. You've got collective spaces where people can gather together. You have rooms that are set up for different kinds of people. And it really is meant to signal to you when you walk in that you are in a special place. And if you happen to live in a place that built itself an iconic, beautiful, memorable, you can't believe it's real kind of library, it lifts up everyone and everything in the community, and you start to feel like, hey, I want to invest in this place a little more. I like being here. I like being around my neighbors. It's good to see each other, and not just in the Starbucks. Right? It's good to see each other in a place that's meant for civic gathering and civic life. That's the principle of the Palace for the People. And so it was exciting to see Forbes take that article down. It was exciting to see this kind of triumph of the librarians who articulated the vision of what a great library could be. And I kind of carried that high with me a little bit. And then I had kind of a sobering revelation, which I want to share with you as we wrap up and start moving towards the panel. And here's the sobering revelation. It's going to involve you. I'm going to ask you to do a little thought experiment with me, okay? And here's the thought experiment. Imagine there was no such thing as the library. Imagine the library didn't exist. We were all here today because there was a proposal on the table to build a brand new lakefront Amazon store, okay? We're talking, should we build a brand new lakefront Amazon store? No one had heard of a library. And I came to pitch a different idea. I said, listen, forget about the Amazon store. Jeff Bezos is doing just fine without you, okay? What if instead we built this thing called the library? And you said, well, what's a library? And I said, okay, here's the idea of the library. Imagine a place that is beautiful and inspiring. It's the kind of place where you want to spend time. It's open 6 or 7 days a week, hopefully 7. Anyone budgeting here? 7 days a week, please. Okay. And it's the kind of place that feels great when you walk in. And one reason it feels great is because the design is so good. But there's another reason it feels great, and that is it's staffed by these magical people called librarians. And their job, when you walk in, is to say to you, "How can I help?" Now think about that. How many times in life do you walk into a place and someone says, "How can I help you?" And they actually want to help you. They're not just trying to get you to supersize your meal, right? They actually want to help you. So you've got these librarians who are kind of like aggressively welcoming, right? And I've used this word dignity because I mean it. You know, there's a lot of people who get dignified every day. You know, they wear nice clothes, they've got good jobs, they drive fancy cars. Not everybody in our communities gets dignified that way. And one of the most special things about a library is it doesn't just lift up those who are already pretty high. A good library and a good librarian, they dignify everyone. They dignify everyone, regardless of who they are, regardless of their station, right? And that is the very point. So imagine if instead of the Amazon store, we had a place like that. We offered everyone in this community access to their cultural heritage. We created gathering places for the young and for the old. We had places where people who are in the middle could mix it up with each other. We help people vote. We help people register to vote. Maybe we help people vote. We help people come together to have conversations about difficult things that we don't always have an easy time talking about. To have those conversations, you need to have a common place, right? We're not going to solve the polarization problem on Twitter, okay? We're not going to solve it on CNN or MSNBC or Fox News either. But when there's a place where we spend time together repeatedly, recurrently, at some point, we've looked at each other enough that we decide to say hello. I'm going to run to the bathroom for a minute. Do you mind just watching my bag? Okay. Now we're in a conversation. Now we're in a conversation, and I guess the question I want to leave us with is, once you build this thing for yourself, once you make this investment in yourself, once you have that palace that you deserve, imagine where your conversation can go. All right, thank you very much.